Hello, and welcome to Strategy Planning Process Model course. We'll discuss step two of the strategic planning process, which we call the business proposition step. The business proposition step two of the strategic planning process is where we formulate the business strategy proposition by transforming your great ideas into a hypothesis through various strategic frameworks, each providing data driven analysis from different perspectives. Before we jump into the content of the proposition step, let's first review what a strategy is. Now, we reviewed this definition of a strategy in a prior session, but I think it's still important to refresh your memories regardless. Of course, you can step ahead if you'd like. There are many definitions of strategy. You may also already have your own definition, and that's fine. Here is our definition of strategy that seems to resonate well with all of our clients. There are key elements of a strategy that make it a good strategy versus a bad one. For example, a good strategy is actionable, where all actions are aligned to achieve a specific goal or tackle a challenge that is designed to beat out the competition, as described in the strategy definition you see here. Well, I'll say this again later in the lesson, but I really thought it would be a good idea to say it here as well because it's very important. It's important to note that in the real world, our strategy isn't static. So always remember that defining a strategy is a living process, and that process evolves while the people actually execute the strategy. More on this later. Okay, so we all probably already knew what a strategy is before I showed you on the last page. Not a surprise. Let's now look at what it takes to properly orchestrate a good strategy for your company. First off, any good strategy answers the why, what, and how scenario of questions. Overall, you know you have a good strategy if it was well researched, executable, and accessible by everyone. All of these need to be there. To do this, I like to look at it from the bottom up because it's our experience with our clients that a strategy is built sort of like you build a house, the foundation first and everything else on top of that. Good strategies are built on a well understood business challenge, describing it in a way of a destination to where you want to be as a company in the future. This is really the foundation of the strategy and answers the why are we doing this question. Now, be sure during this step or part of the process that you take the time to do detailed analysis and research to truly understand the rationale and the why behind the business challenge. Don't shortchange this part of the process. As you build on the business challenge and go through that process, you will start forming a high level solution, defining the what, which is answering the question, what you are going to do about the business challenge. This requires you to have deep understanding of your company's core competencies and business model with focus on ensuring you're aligning to a competitive advantage. We'll show you frameworks that dive into these areas and we'll make use of this information as we go through the strategy planning process material. After you get a solid idea on what you're going to do about the business challenge, you want to get more specific on the how. How exactly you're going to do this. The how part is answered with actions. Remember, the core part of our definition a few slides back. Strategy is a plan of actions that fit together to resolve a clear business challenge. The action plans need to be a set of actions that truly fit together, forming the execution roadmap to reach your destination and resolve your business challenge. Actions consist of clearly defined initiatives or tasks that include performance indicators, budget, resources, and more. This is a core part of strategic planning process we'll cover later in your training sessions and throughout these courses. Now you understand the why, what, and how of a strategy. It's important now to point out a good strategy is really an educated guess or a hypothesis. So, A good strategy follows a planning process as described here, formulating the what, why, and how hypothesis, but it's never a guarantee that it'll all work and therefore makes the quality somewhat subjective in nature. This is why it's important to make sure the solutions and actions support each other and connect, as noted in our initial strategy definition. As I said earlier and promised we'd reiterate later in this discussion, people actually execute strategies. Keep that in mind. So, people from all over the company have to know the strategy they're expected to execute. A strategy presentation is a good start, but it doesn't create traction. Simple PowerPoint slides rarely do the trick in this case. You need to expose or cascade and align your plan and goals to all the people at all levels of the company so they can visit it daily and understand the benefit. That's how they'll align their daily activities with the top priorities. Keeping in mind that strategy is subjective, stagnant strategies fail to overcome unexpected challenges and rely on blind commitment to untested assumptions. It simply doesn't work. If you retain one thing from this lesson, it would be this: no strategy survives first contact with reality. It's really a hypothesis, as noted from prior block in this diagram. So keep it alive with regular reviewing habits, including frictionless reporting and definitely cascading communication and goal alignment. Think of execution as iterative process and not predetermined with simple actions to achieve. These steps of strategy opens the door to numerous business frameworks that helps us look at strategy from different perspectives. I'm referring to frameworks like SWOT, PEST, Balanced Scorecard, and more that all provide different solutions based on your needs and perspective. Let's now learn all about these frameworks. By the way, all frameworks and templates are available on the VNC Designer platform as part of your membership. Let's make sure we know what the reasons for a framework is. Frameworks work with the strategic planning process as the tools you need to dig deep into identifying goals, objectives, and actions. As you get into the strategic planning process, you will need strategic planning frameworks based on your findings to get the details you need. For example, as you apply the strategic planning process using our VNC Designer platform, you will likely start with a SWOT analysis framework or by defining your vision and mission statements first with a balanced scorecard. Or if you're applying a scenario based strategic model, you could start with a SWOT analysis and actually end up also implementing a pest analysis to get a better overview of your current external scenarios. So, depending on your goals, you may want to apply several different frameworks throughout the strategic planning process. So I realize selecting the right frameworks could be a daunting task, which is exactly why you're taking these courses and using our platform. This will help you automate the process and make it easier for you to define and execute your strategic plan. As we progress together through these courses, you will get a better and better idea on when to use and combine the right frameworks to satisfy your business needs. Let's now learn a bit more about a few of the most popular frameworks and also their basic role in strategic planning. Again, you may recall some of this material in past overview courses on models and frameworks, but it's still important to refresh your memory on these frameworks. We also have greater detail discussions and certifications in each of these frameworks course material in other courses. Before briefly describing each framework, let's look at their role in the strategic planning model process. Again, all these business frameworks are available as templates in the VNC Designer platform. Okay, so let's look at this table on this chart. The column on the left lists our 5 supported frameworks. We will add more frameworks as we validate their quality. The row across the top are the 5 steps of our strategic planning model. The asterisks in each cell indicate the application strength of the framework for that strategy planning step. So one asterisk is good, two is better, and three is great, whereas zero really the framework doesn't support at all. So at a glance, you can see Balanced Scorecard has a nice offering for pretty much all of the strategic planning steps. And OKRs is in second, having some offerings in most of the steps of process. While other frameworks like SWOT, PEST, and VRIO, for example, do very well in strategy, proposition, and hypothesis, with some limited offerings in diving into details of the strategy around goals and objectives. As I noted earlier, VNC reviewed all these frameworks in great detail and feel confident that they all offer incredible value to the strategic planning process. In fact, we selected these because they all offer proven ability to add business value from different points of view. For example, some are great at proposition and business value, while others are better at details, goals, and cascading. Let's look at each framework at a very high level to get a better feel on how they contribute to the strategy planning process. Let's start with Balanced Scorecard, or acronym BSC, which is one of the most popular frameworks in the strategy planning and execution process. The core VNC strategy map is also modeled around BSC. More on this as we go through our courses. BSC is basically a strategy map with 4 perspectives. Each perspective builds on each other, starting from the base financial perspective. The framework provides the logic we use in creating strategy through these 4 perspectives. Let's look briefly at each other and how they build on each other. With the finance perspective, or sometimes called stakeholders perspective, if you're a nonprofit, we need to define the financial outcomes we want to achieve. I like to ask the question, if we satisfy the needs of our customers, what outcomes will our stakeholders realize? Then we have to define the needs of the customer that the organization needs to satisfy to achieve those financial or stakeholder outcomes. I like to ask the question, to achieve our vision, how should the customer feel? For internal business process, we define the challenges we need to solve internally to satisfy the needs of the customer. I like to ask the question, how are you going to meet the challenges to satisfy customer needs and also hit our financial goals? For the learning and growth perspective, we focus the learning aspects of the organization and the outcomes we need to achieve to satisfy internal challenges and meet customer and financial need. I like to ask the question, how should our company learn and improve in order to achieve this vision? Once the framework is complete, it will help us in the next step of the process to move into creating a more detailed strategy by mapping goals through defining cause and effect connections. Aligning goals to metrics and performance indicators is the deal, and defining action plans is another. As I said earlier, the Balanced Scorecard is one of the most popular frameworks for strategy planning and execution, and central to the VNC strategy planning model. The VNC Designer platform supports this framework natively, and it's used throughout the whole entire strategy planning process on our platform. To dive deeper into the Balanced Scorecard use, the pros and cons and examples, I recommend you read and watch various articles and podcasts published with the community part of your membership. You can also find live peer to peer meetings and roundtables with your membership where this framework is often discussed with peers and experts. Let's move on to the OKR, or Objectives and Key Results framework. OKR is an excellent tool to set up tangible goals and appraise achieved results. Where OKR falls short, perhaps, and strategy, hypothesis, and details part of the process, as indicated in our prior comparison chart, it gains in excellent cascading communication and execution of strategy. And OKR's best practice is to start with top corporate objectives, which are then cascaded to the different departments or teams as OKRs to refine and get more detail. In a typical OKR implementation, the objective is qualitative and the answers the question, what is to be accomplished? Questions like, what matters? Where are we now? Where do we want to go? How can we get there? What are the global and local objectives? What are the expected results from achievement of these objectives? As you progress through a regular OKR, key results make the objectives more quantifiable, but it does not enforce actually quantifying success factors. To have a full picture of why the objective was a success or failure, we need to enforce leading factors and lagging results as KPIs within the results. When starting your OKR related discussions, teams likely did their best to come up with objectives that resonate with the company strategy. While the challenge of alignment between OKR objectives and strategy is clear, OKR framework doesn't provide a mechanism to address this challenge. A good approach in this case would be to link objectives from OKRs to the objectives from the strategy mapping scorecard. A strategy map in this case will work as a first level filter for possible ideas. This is where automation software helps. For example, VNC Designer Platform can visualize a company's strategic objectives on a strategy map and link the performance of the goal to specific key results and cascade OKR as needed. You can get more details on OKR analysis process by taking the OKR analysis course provided with this membership. So, in summary, objectives are supported by quantitative key results in a typical OKR. To further enhance an OKR with the ability to quantify how the objective will be achieved, the OKR template's key results should support a mechanism to benchmark and monitor how to achieve the objective. Therefore, key results can be specific with hard numbers, measurable, and time bound with both lagging and leading KPIs, like you see in the example contained in the VNC Strategy Designer Platform OKR strategy map on this chart. The OKR tool, accessible with your VNC Designer platform, can help you write OKRs, align them throughout the organization, and track progress. To dive deeper into OKR use, the pros and cons and examples, I recommend you read and watch various articles and podcasts published with the community part of your membership. You can also find live peer to peer meetings and roundtables with your membership where this framework is often discussed with peers and experts. Let's move on to the SWOT framework, which is the most well known framework and likely doesn't really need an introduction. When we do a deeper dive on strategy planning, model map, and SWOT, you will see that the VNC Designer platform uses SWOT and BSC directly within its strategy map. As you can see from the definition of SWOT on this slide, the whole idea is to find opportunities that can be maximized while also understanding the negative factors that may hinder success. As we mentioned earlier, SWOT is great for defining the business proposition or strategy hypothesis. We define this hypothesis using SWOT by converting and aligning the results from the four factors of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. First, you would identify weaknesses that can be converted to strength. Then focus on converting strengths into opportunities. And finally, aligning strengths with opportunities. To dive deeper into SWOT use, the pros and cons and examples, I recommend you read and watch various articles and podcasts published with the community part of your membership. You can also find live peer to peer meetings and roundtables with your membership where this framework is often discussed with peers and experts. Let's use a couple of real VNC tech group examples of converting and aligning SWOT results. Let's start with aligning a couple of VNC strengths and opportunities. At VNC, we have decades of experience successfully implementing digital transformation. This is a strength. We also have very strong knowledge of highly automated systems, which is another strength. Over the last several years, we discovered a major growing trend towards automation and smart platforms. This is an opportunity. So we matched these strengths with this opportunity and compiled ideas on providing our strategy services on a highly automated and smart platform. Hence, one of the many opportunities that eventually led our VNC Designer platform that you are using today. Now, let's take another real example where we converted from weakness to a strength. Our customers are spread out across the globe and vary in size and complexity. We could not properly support face to face a growing number of clients with varying complexity needs with their strategy development needs. And because of this, competitors had an open door to take our clients where we could not scale. Hence, we lose new business. This was another weakness. So we converted these weaknesses to a strength by addressing our scaling problem through smarter and automated services, as well as on demand world class video training. Okay, so this normally concludes a typical SWOT analysis. You have your four blocker with internal strengths and weaknesses, as well as in external opportunities and threats. You may also have added a few new strengths and opportunities through the alignment and conversion steps we just went through. Here at VNC and with our strategic planning process, we aren't done yet. Since our model's central element is the strategy map, we want to get SWOT results closer to the strategy map. We take this extra step during the SWOT analysis by examining the SWOT results through the lens of a strategy map's four perspectives: finance, customer, internal business, process, and learning and growth. So now we get strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats aligned to each of the four perspectives in the strategy map and start mapping KPIs and initiatives. We also start aligning these SWOT results to actual strategic goals. The VNC Strategy Designer platform provides all the templates, strategy mapping, automation, and more to accomplish all of this. The platform is user friendly and takes you through this process. You can also participate in live peer to peer discussions, live roundtables, and even set up a one on one discussion with one of our senior leaders to get more insight in these mappings and more. Let's move on to VIO analysis. From the framework's comparison chart we showed earlier, we know this framework is great at developing business proposition and strategy hypothesis, basically step two of our process. Like all other frameworks, they are good at evaluating certain needs, and VRIO is no different. As shown in this diagram, the main focus is on corporate resources and capabilities, and they are examined through the lens of value, rarity, imitability, and organization factors. These four factors are markers for unique value and resources your business is characterized by, and their data analysis helps uncover what the long term advantages are for your organization. Once you have a deep understanding of your unique value and how your resources help bring that to life, you can begin to strategize how your business can capitalize on this competitive advantage and create a sustainable plan for success. It's not uncommon now to answer no to some of these questions, although this chart seems like everything is yes. This is normal and requires you to see if you can convert limitations and rethink the possibilities formulating a hypothesis. When you think about your company's unique value, It's important to emphasize the fact that sustainable success requires qualities that cannot be easily replicated or integrated by your competitors. Being able to maintain a competitive edge is critical to your success, and doing so requires a nuanced understanding of why you're important and unique. I'd like to elaborate on the main focus area of VRIO before we move on. As we said on the prior slide, the main focus area for VRIO analysis is the internal resources and capabilities of an organization. It suggests looking at resources and capabilities and deciding which of them might lead to sustainable competitive advantage. Using VRAO to understand a sustainable advantage works great for the MBA college classroom full of textbook answers. That is for sure. But in the real world situations, we are more interested in finding the resources and capabilities that could help us to achieve that sustainable advantage. Or if we're lucky to have one, understand how to maintain and improve it. So, from my own real world perspective, the idea of a VRAO is to find the resources and capabilities that has the highest potential to become your sustainable advantage. So, getting a mix of yes and no answers will result in a hypothesis that will align to strategic goals, actions, and KPIs, providing the path to a successful execution. By doing this helps you align and focus your actionable strategy on developing these competitive advantages. Let's take a quick look at a few examples of a VRIO analysis from the VRIO strategy map shown here through the VNC Strategy Designer platform. Looking at customer satisfaction, you can see we came up with two hypotheses or ideas. The first one is to make customer satisfaction even more valuable. For example, provide strategy automation tools to make strategy execution easier and repeatable for the customer. The second one is harder to imitate by expanding SMEs. Right away, you can map these hypotheses to strategic goals, including one, don't just consult, use automation as well. And number two, the network SMEs, expanding community and overall marketplace. When examining the other examples in this chart, you will see similar patterns where we take the information from the VRIO analysis, create hypothesis, and map that to an eventual strategic goal. We dive deeper into VRIO framework and process in other certification courses with your membership. Also, the VNC Strategy Designer platform provides all the templates, strategy mapping, automation, and more to accomplish all of this. The platform is user friendly and takes you through the entire process. We can also help you by participating in live peer to peer discussions, live roundtables, and even set up a one on one discussion with one of our senior leaders to get more insight in these mappings and more. Let's move on to PEST or PEST-L framework, where the focus is on external factors and their influences on business. This framework is great at developing your business proposition and strategy hypothesis. As shown in this standard PEST-L diagram, it includes analysis of several factors: political, economic, sociological, technological, environmental, and legal. Note that some pest analysis performed don't use the last two concerning environmental and legal, but we include these in this overview for understanding. In our pest deeper dive course, we provide examples of each of these factors. You would brainstorm with your team on what to use that best fits your company needs. Here is a snapshot of one of our pastel strategy maps from VNC Designer platform. The strategy map has all seven factors along the left side of the map, along with the questions to ask. I highly suggest you start the pastel process with the first factor, political. Find political trends that could potentially impact your business. Such trend examples for political may be government policies, political stability, bureaucracy and corruption, country's political climate, and pending legislation. Then brainstorm with your team all the potential implications for each item. Note the relevant findings as your business proposition or strategic hypothesis in your Pestel chart, and then move on to the next factor and do the same. Use the questions shown for each factor in this chart to get you started with identifying trends and brainstorming with your team. Notice that in the container boxes on the diagram, you will see areas where you can input your hypothesis, idea, or even a specific action and more. It's important that you use this feature of our VNC Designer platform pastel strategy map, as you'll see the strategic hypothesis derived in the overall strategy map in later steps. To dive deeper in the balanced scorecard use, the pros and cons, and examples, I recommend you read and watch various articles and podcasts published with the community part of your membership. You can also find live peer to peer meetings and roundtables with your membership where this framework is discussed with peers and experts. Nothing beats truly learning new things than practicing with your new learnings. As a challenge, I suggest you take another look at the frameworks comparison chart and select a few frameworks that resonates with your needs. Then practice using them to see if you can come up with a hypothesis or business proposition. Run it through the filter that you received at the beginning of this presentation to see if it makes a good strategy. I encourage you to use the VNC Strategy Designer platform to work through these frameworks as it serves as a guide and a tool and makes it easier. Or also feel free to download the templates. You can use the templates raw. You can find them on the VNC Designer platform and do this manually. Also, take part in live sessions and read or watch articles and video podcasts. It's all included in your membership.